Well, hello everybody, and welcome again to another OpenShift Commons briefing. I'm really pleased to have Joey Schorr from CoreOs, who's recently been acquired and joined the OpenShift team. He's going to be talking about using Quay, and it's really just meant to be an introduction to Quay. We're probably not going to go into any sort of how to use it specifically with OpenShift in this. Because it's pretty standard the way that you would use it as you would with any project. But I really wanted to start introducing some of the products and offerings and projects from the CoreOs team to the OpenShift Commons community. So I'm really pleased to have Joey with us today, and hopefully a lot more of the CoreOs team showing up in upcoming Commons briefings. So Joey, I'm going to let you take it away and introduce yourself, and we'll have live Q&A at the end. So there you go.
Thank you so much. Well, my name is Joey Schorr, as said. I'm a senior principal engineer on the Quay team, formerly of CoreOs, now of Red Hat. I'm also the tech lead of Quay and the former co-founder of Quay back in the day, a couple of years ago. And today I'll be talking about Quay, how it is a enterprise-grade container registry. It can be used with OpenShift to store, manage, and push and pull your container images. I'm just going to dive right in, give a little bit of background, and then give a little bit of an in-depth demo. If at any time you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat. We'll answer them at the end, and if they're showstoppers, as said, then we'll answer them along the way. So let's dive in. So a little bit of background. Quay is a secure distributed registry to build and deploy your container images. It speaks the container registry protocols, Docker v1 and v2. You can use it with any Docker CLI, and you can, of course, use it with OpenShift to store your container images and manage them there. There are two tiers that we support. We have Quay.io, which is our SaaS version. You can go to Quay.io right now, create a free account, and start pushing and pulling images. In fact, if you'd like to follow along once I start my demo, that's a good way to see and play with the tool as I walk through it. We also have Quay Enterprise, and that is just a version that runs on your own hardware. And along with that, we provide support and maintenance. An interesting little tidbit, Quay.io is actually just a Quay Enterprise that we run on AWS. So anything you can do in Quay.io, you can do in Quay Enterprise, and features that we release are, of course, released for both because they are the same. On those features list, some of our top features that we like to discuss about is vulnerability scanning. So every time you push an image to Quay, it is automatically and continuously scanned for vulnerabilities. We give you complete visibility into those issues. We also provide, and this is unique to us, how to fix them. So we tell you, are there fixes available for these vulnerabilities? And if so, which layer introduced those vulnerabilities? I'll be giving a quick overview of that shortly thereafter. We provide automated geographic replication. So if you're running Quay Enterprise in your own hardware and you want to have your images replicated to multiple regions or multiple storage systems, you can set up Quay Enterprise to do so, and images pushed in, say, New York can be replicated to, say, San Francisco or Berlin or wherever your data centers may be located. We provide a very tight integration with build image triggers. So if you have source code in a Git VCS like GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab, or just even your own Git, you can set it up so that Quay will automatically build a new version of your application every time a push occurs, either to specific branches or in general. And then those images will automatically be placed and tagged into your repositories. There's similar functionality built into OpenShift, and so you can use this as a way of tying together OpenShift builds with your builds from external sources, or doing just directly on Quay. And then a feature that is very unique to Quay is something we call Image Time Machine, which allows you to view history of your images and your tags that you've pushed and quickly and easily switch between those. I'll be showing that off in a minute as well. So diving into a bit of some of our features before we start the demo. Image vulnerability scanning ensures your containers are secure. We continually scan your images, as I said, and we provide really great UI and information around, what vulnerabilities have been detected and where they occurred, and even if there are solutions to those vulnerabilities by upgrading your packages. In terms of general differentiators of Quay versus other registry products that are on the market, we provide connections to various identity providers if you're using Quay Enterprise. So if you have LDAP or Keystone or some of those other open identity providers, you can hook them in, and your Docker CLI login will go through that provider. We provide, of course, Claire, which is our security scanning backend. It provides high integrity for images. It's resilient. It's high availability by default. As I said, it supports automatic geographic replication and time machine. One unique feature that Quay supports outside of other registries is continuous garbage collection. So unlike, say, Docker Trusted Registry, whenever an image is pushed to Quay, as soon as it's unreferenced, it will be garbage collected in the background with no downtime, no read-only requirements, things like that. Of course, we have our Dockerfile build system. And as mentioned, Quay.io is just a Quay enterprise that we run, which means we can test changes at scale for our whole customer base and rapidly iterate from there forward. Continuing forward, we support something called encrypted CLI passwords. So if you're doing a Docker login on your computer and you have, say, an LDAP password or another form of password there, you can, instead of having it be stored plain text on your computer, you can encrypt it, and Quay will allow you to have just that encrypted version with the keys never leaving Quay. We have a very fine logging and auditing system. This means that every action taken in the entire registry is audited and logged. So if you need to go back and say who changed this permission on this day, you can find that out. We have a very fine-grained ACL model. Quay is built around its auth system, which provides very fine-grained access control and very fine-grained permissions. We support teams and organizations, namespaces, robot, or what we call robots, which are service accounts, and integration with various OAuth providers, both as an OAuth provider itself, as well as taking in identity. So you can set up your auth however you see fit. And then a really cool feature, one of my favorites, is torrent distribution. If you're using Quay or Quay.io or Quay Enterprise and you're deploying images to a lot of machines in a cluster that's geographically farther away from storage, you can use our CLI tooling and actually pull images via torrent, and the blobs will be shared amongst all of your machines in your cluster. To further dive in, as I said, we support build triggers. So you can see here, you can set up a build trigger on GitHub, Push, Bitbucket, GitLab, or the enterprise versions thereof, or even custom Git. And every time a push occurs to either any branch and tag or anyone that matches a regular expression, you will get a build automatically kicked off, and that build will in turn push the image to your repository. Once a build has completed or a push is completed, we can then issue repository notifications. This provides a way of having actionable intelligence coming out of your repos. So you can register a notification for any event such as push to a repo, build, various builds phases, or vulnerability found. I'll dive a little bit more into that in a moment. And then you can be notified via a variety of methods such as email, Quay notification, which is just a little thing that shows up in the corner, a Slack message or a HipChat message, or even a webhook post, which allows you to, of course, take custom actions as a result of one of these notifications. Webhook post, of course, being the most powerful. Time Machine, which I alluded to a little bit earlier, provides the history of all your tags, includes all of your images that have been included in there, and if you need to, you can actually revert backwards in time in case you've made a mistake. So if you pushed a broken image to your latest tag, well, just revert it back in history, and now you're as if it's never happened. So, excuse me. We also provide a really cool feature called squashing images. So typically, if you have a container image in Docker, you have multiple layers. As an example, on the right-hand side, you can see you may have a Debian layer with Emacs in it and Apache, and then a container. But you want to be able to just retrieve the whole image at once. So Quay provides the ability to squash those images in real time without having to do any pre-processing steps, and retrieve the whole image as a single layer, which reduces HTTP round trips, image size, and accelerates the fetch. On the audit side, we have usage logs, as I said. So every action taken in the entire registry is audited. So you can see on the side, we show all the events broken down by category and color. We show when it occurred, who performed it. This includes everything from pushes and pulls, permission changes, build events, tag changes, even changing the description of a repository. Very fine-grained and very powerful for auditability. So I'm going to jump right into a demo here because I gave a summary and overview of a lot of really cool features, but it's, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So I'm going to make this full screen. So this is the Quay UI when you land in. As you can see here, I have a variety of repositories, a repo, of course, holding a number of container images. And you can see that I'm part of a number of users and organizations. Like GitHub, Quay supports both user namespaces. In this case, my user is DevTable, as well as organizational namespaces. So you can see here on the right, I'm part of 4 organizations: TT, Library, By and Large, and Sell and Small. And at any time, I can see the repositories that have been granted access to me as part of those organizations and namespaces. So you can see here in the By and Large, I have access to a few repos. Under my own namespace, I have access to a few repos. And you can see here, I also have a few starred repos. Diving into a repository itself, we can see the overview screen. I have an activity view, just kind of like the GitHub activity view, sees what has been going on in the repo, what builds have been run, and then the description, which of course, supports Markdown in all of its glory. So I can, bold this here and save the changes and nice and bold. If going to the tags view, this is kind of the heart and soul of the UI view. We can see here all of the tags within my repository. I can see I have a prod on the latest tag, when it was last modified, the security scan, which in this case has been queued, the size of my image, when it expires, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then which image it applies to. And from within the Quay UI, you can actually take a lot of pretty powerful operations. So for example, if I don't like this latest tag, I can just, delete it, bam, and now it's gone. Let's say I actually want to add a new tag to this prod. I can be like another tag. I guess I need to type. And now you can see I have another tag there. This blue line indicates that they refer to the same image. So at any time, I can see not only which tags live in my repository, but I can also see which ones point to the same image. I can also do things like edit the labels on this, change the expiration, add additional tags. If I hit expand here, you can see the image itself, as well as any labels. Labels are pretty interesting. If you've ever used a label in a Docker file, then it will show up here, as well as I could add a new label here just by hitting edit it, and it could be like foo equals bar. Bam, it'll have a label there. And so you can attach arbitrary metadata to your tags, and you can then query it using our API. Now, one interesting feature I alluded to earlier was Time Machine. If I go over here to the Tag History tab, you can see all of the operations that have occurred inside of this repository. So you can see here, prod and latest were created, pointing to some images of, last month when I generated this database. And then you can see here, just today during the demo, I deleted this latest tag, so we can see latest was gone, and then I added another tag to this image. And so I have the full history here of all my tags, and we can see that this latest tag is gray because it no longer exists. Well, let's say I didn't mean to do that. Oops, that was a mistake. Well, I can just hit restore, and now latest has been recreated, pointing to that tag, or that image rather, and now going back to my tags page, we can see latest has been returned. So if you make mistakes in Quay, you override an image or, a tag, or you accidentally delete something, within the configure time machine window, you can just bring it back. On Quay, by default, the time machine window is 2 weeks, but you can configure that under your namespace settings, and you can make it as long as or short as you like. Now, I've been taking a few operations in here because I'm the administrator of this repository. If we go into the settings here, you can see I am the admin. But let's say I wanted to give someone else the ability to make changes in here. It's just as simple as typing in their username. So let's say I wanted to have the public user have write access. Okay, now they have write access. Likewise, I can make them read access only, or heck, I want them to be an administrator. But what if I need a CI system or I need a production system to be able to access this repository? Well, Quay supports service accounts in the name of robots. So in this case, I have a DT robot, and I can say give it read-only access. And now this robot account will be able to pull this repository but not make any changes. And unlike users, robots can actually have a token which can be regenerated. So let's say this token somehow gets leaked, or we lose track of it. Well, I can just hit regenerate, and bam, now the token has been changed, and all of the existing ones have become invalid. A small but very powerful feature. And while I've been making all of these ACL changes, of course, it's all been audited. So going to my usage logs here, you can see all of the changes that I've been making while just even talking about this demo have shown up right here in my audit logs. So we can see from the description changed from right at the beginning of my demo. I added some tags, changed them around, added a label, changed some permissions, and everything shows up into this audit log and was being classified in this beautiful graph. And at any time, if I want to, I can be like, oh, did I change any labels? Yes, I did. So this is very powerful for system administrators who might want to know what's going on in their registry or in a specific repository, things like that. Now, going quickly back to the tags page here, there's also a column that I alluded to earlier, which was the expires column. This ties very specifically into time machine. Let's say I have this latest tag here and I want it to expire next week. By setting an expiration on this, in 7 days, that tag will be automatically deleted. But because it's in time machine, if I then wish to, oops, I didn't mean it to expire, I can then just go back and bring it back from the dead, or as it were. But expiration is really powerful. If you have a CI system or a build system that's constantly building new images and pushing new tags, you can set an automatic expiration. And then if you decide to use a tag in production, you can remove the expiration. And that way, you're not overpopulating your repository. The security scan column, of course, points to the security status. Now, I'm running this demo as part of a local instance, and I'm not running Claire as part of my local instance. So I'm going to show off the security part on a live image, doing it live on Quay.io. So there's this Quay/Redis, which is an old Redis image we now keep around for demo purposes. As you can see here, this tag has been pushed very long time ago, so long ago, in fact, that we don't even have the last modified date. And you can see that there are 16 high vulnerabilities in this, pretty bad. But you can also see that there's 396 fixable. So unlike other security solutions on the market, we not only provide what the security vulnerabilities are, but whether there are any fixable. Basically, is there actionable solutions that can be taken to solve the security holes that are in your container image? So if I hover over the security scan, we can see here this tag has 491 vulnerabilities across 56 packages. That's pretty bad. I probably should find out what's going on. So I will click here and dive in. And once you click into the security scanning view, you get this beautiful UI. It provides a lot of information in a small space, so I'll go over it quickly. You can see here that we've detected 491 vulnerabilities. Patches are available for 396, so a good chunk of them. We break down the vulnerabilities by severity level. So you can see here I have 16 high and 256 medium. So the vast majority, or over half of these, are pretty important to fix. And then 193 low-level ones. Scrolling down, we can see we show all of the vulnerabilities by CVE number. We default sort by severity. So we can see here a few 10 out of 10s. These are pretty bad. In fact, I'll get into why they're so bad in a moment. We can see which packages there are. So we can see these are both bash and this is OpenSSL. What version of the package is installed? In other words, the one that's vulnerable. And as I said, very unique to Quay, we show the fixed in version. So if you upgrade bash from 4.37-7 Ubuntu 1 to 1.1, this will be fixed. So you have intelligence on how to move forward and fix this problem. And then we also show which image layer in the actual overall image introduced this vulnerability. So if you're not sure where to fix your packages, you can actually do so. Opening up this CVE will provide further details. So we can see here we have the access vector information from CVSS. And in fact, we also have the description information. And of course, looking at this, we can see that this is actually shell shock, which is one of the most major vulnerabilities that came out over the last few years. And that's why it's rated as a 10 out of 10. If I want more information on the CVE, I can just click on this little link here, and it will take me directly to the CVE description on the distros provider. We support, as distros right now, Ubuntu, Debian, Red Hat, of course, Oracle, and Alpine. So we support all of the major container-based distros for this, and we're adding more every time. This is actually powered by an open source project build called Quay, which we might do another community session about. And we also provide the ability to filter down and see only the ones that are fixable. So we can see here there's, of course, quite a lot. Another tab we provide on the security scan is the package view. So unlike the vulnerability view, this, of course, breaks down your security report by packages. So we can see here that it has detected 151 packages in this container image. There always are a lot more than you initially would suspect. And we can see here that 8 have high-level vulnerabilities and 37 have medium. Looking at the package table itself, we can see the package names, what version they are, and the vulnerabilities. Now, these next two columns are the most important in my opinion. They show what vulnerabilities will exist after upgrading this package to the latest version. And likewise, as a result, we create an upgrade impact score and we sort. So if you have very little time and you have to fix just the most important vulnerabilities in your container, you can actually just upgrade these packages and you'll get the most bang for your proverbial buck. And being able to say, well, if I upgrade OpenSSL, then all the identified vulnerabilities will be fixed, including all these high ones. If I upgrade Bash, likewise. So these are the most important ones to be fixed. And then if I scroll down, you can see, the upgrade impact becomes lower and lower until the point where basically there are no vulnerabilities or there is no upgrade impact. Now, this is all very useful information to be able to see after you've pushed an image. Well, what happens if you have an image in the security system and a new vulnerability is detected? Are you going to have to go check every image? Well, actually, no. As alluded to earlier, we support notifications on repositories in Quay. So I can create a notification on my repository, choose my event. Now you can see here there are a variety of events as I spoke to earlier, but the one I'll speak to now is package vulnerability found. So I choose that. And then I choose with a minimum severity level. So let's say I choose medium. So now anytime there's a new vulnerability discovered in an image in this repository that has a medium severity or higher, I will be notified. And I can actually choose, say, to be notified by Slack. And then you can choose to put your room in. But there's one other key aspect that this provides. This not only applies to new vulnerabilities. So as an example, when I believe it was when Shell Shock originally came out, it was listed as a medium level vulnerability. But once the extent of the damage was discovered, it actually was upgraded to a high or even critical level vulnerability. Now, if I had configured my severity level as, say, critical, I would not have been notified initially of Shell Shock. But once the Shell Shock vulnerability was reclassified, I received a notification because Claire and Quay Security Scanner will send out a notification not only for new vulnerabilities, but vulnerabilities that have jumped in severity, even if the vulnerability has been out for years. This is a very good way for you to keep track of the security state of your container images across your entire platform and not have to worry that, oh, an image that I created 6 years ago, is that vulnerable to something that came out today or that became more critical today? If it is, you will be notified. So that's notification system. Very, very powerful. Now, going to back to our repository screen, we spoke a lot about permissions on repositories, but what happens if I don't want to add individual users to my repository permissions? That can get tedious and overdrawn. Instead, I can use an organization. So let's say I have this by and large organization with a couple of repositories in it. Under the organization, I have teams. And in teams, you can collect users. You can also collect robot accounts, give them a name, say readers or synced, and then you can specify in repositories that you want a particular team to have a permission. So let's say I go to my org repo, and I want my org repo to have access. I want a team of users to have access to my org repo. Well, I can just grant, say, the readers team read access. Likewise, if I need a new team, say, I don't know, writers, I can create that team. And then I can grant it, say, write access. And if I go into the writers team, I can add, say, myself. I can also add a robot. I can even invite somebody like, I don't know, perhaps myself to the team. And then if I hit enter and invite it via email, they'll be receiving an invite to join this team and organization. Teams are also really powerful because they give you an overview of all the permissions in your entire organization. So if I want to, I click the members view here and see here are all the members of my organization's teams, which teams they're part of, and if there are any repo permission, direct repository permissions. And hey, let's say public is no longer a member of my organization. Well, I'll just remove them. And now he's been removed from all teams and all repositories in my organization, can no longer has any access. You can also invite individual collaborators or contributors to be part of your repositories. So if I go to the collaborators view here, you can see that this outside org user has direct permissions on one repository under this organization. He's not part of a particular team, but he was granted access on a one-off basis. But let's say I no longer want him to be in here. Well, I can remove him as well. And now he's no longer, again, have access. Organizations also provide some other really powerful features. I'm not going to go too deeply into them because we're a little short on time, but one of the ones is being able to see the usage logs. So just like I was able to see the usage logs for a particular repository, I can see the usage logs for all of the repositories, all of the actions taken across the entire organization. So you can see here all of the changes I just made are visible in here. And in fact, you can see I changed the permission, I added it to this member, and it all just shows up here. Okay, we're getting close to done, so if there are any questions.
So far, I don't see any questions in the Q&A, but something has just popped up here. Are there any plans to replace the current OpenShift registry by Quay? Is there a CLI REST for Quay administration or just via the UI? And for the first one, everything with our existing registry will probably stay the same and be available out of the box as it is. And I don't think we have a roadmap yet for how the integration is going to be with Quay. So we'll just, still pretty new.
The roadmap of the OpenShift registry versus Quay is still in early discussions. But since Quay speaks the Docker protocol, you can use Quay kind of out of the box with OpenShift. Speaking to the CLI question, so every operation that's taken in Quay that I showed in the UI today is backed by a full RESTful API. In fact, the UI frontend is actually speaking that REST API to the backend when I was doing the demo. And we provide support for OAuth. So if I were to go to this applications tab here, I can create an OAuth application. And I can even generate an access token to talk to that application. You can also do a proper OAuth flow. But let's say I wanted to have the ability to create repositories and administer them and view all these. I'll generate an access token. Now, I have to sign in to do that. In order to do so, once you've created that access token, you can then call our API. For those who are interested, it is at docs.quay.io/API. Is our documentation. And if I go to the API Explorer here, it'll load up, take a few seconds. It will actually show all of the operations you can perform against Quay. And this is every operation that the UI can perform. Permissions, organizations, repositories, notifications, robot account management, searching, security scan information, tagging, team management, everything. And so if you want to have custom tooling in order to manage Quay, you can absolutely do so.
Right, you're making them cheer in the chat, so you've made some folks very happy, and I think you've made a lot of us very happy coming on board, and this has been pretty useful. I do know of a number of customers who are already using Quay and OpenShift, one of whom will be talking about it at the upcoming OpenShift Commons gathering. Cisco is going to talk about their implementation, and they've been using Quay. So there's some good precedents. This was great content. I'm suitably very impressed with the UI and the accessibility of it, and really pleased to see the API there as well. So if people have other questions, you can see Joey's name here in the screen. If you want to make it full screen so we can end on that note. I don't see any other questions coming in. And we will probably do a few more Quay-related talks in the coming months as well. And please, if you can, join us at the OpenShift Commons Gathering on May 7th at Red Hat Summit. We'd be happy to have you participate in those conversations there as well. And I think we'll coerce Joey and a number of the folks from the CoreOs team to join us, as they are all mostly based in the San Francisco Bay Area.